So you want to know what dental school is going to be like, huh? Well, you're in luck. I'm a fourth year dental student and I've gone through pretty much what every dental student has to go through to make it to the end. Well, almost. Inshallah, about 7 more months. I'm long overdue on my D3 recap video, so that's what I'm going to be doing here today and giving you an update on D4. Stay tuned. Out of all the years of dental school, I really think the third year is the one that flies by the fastest. It offers a dental student the unique opportunity to really shine in clinic and mold themselves into the oral healthcare provider they've been striving for so hard to become. D3 year has its fair share of challenges and a huge learning curve associated with it, but at the end of the day, you're in clinic, working on patients, doing dentistry. So I'm going to be sharing some of my tips and really some important things that I learned that I think any D3 student should be wary of to make the most of that third year of dental school. So at my school, our clinic is divided into 4 groups: CCU 1, CCU 2, CCU 3, and CCU 4. CCU 2 gang, you know where it's at, we the best. So in the main clinic, we're pretty much taking care of the urgent, control, and definitive phases. So we're doing our exams, we're doing our cleanings, we're doing our restorations, crowns, dentures, removable partials, all that stuff. Everything else is done in the specialty clinics. You know, coming into clinic, I never really realized how beneficial and educational it was to have multiple doctors to work with. What I learned from one doc is something that I may not have ever heard of before, and what I heard from another doc may be something that I have. So you have to really pick and choose things that you think is best for you and your patient. So it's up to you to piece those different ways of going about things together to mold yourself into that oral healthcare provider that I was just speaking about. But it's pretty overwhelming. Like, you know, just for an exam, you have to put so many different codes in and figure out which one goes where. And then after the exam, you have to figure out what kind of treatment they need. And then once that's approved, you have to treatment plan all of those things. So as a dental student, you're not going to have somebody doing this for you. You have to do this on your own. So one thing that really helped me was making templates. I had a template for my comprehensive exam note and what codes were associated. Then I had a different template for if I have a restoration and the codes associated with it. I had the same thing for crowns. I had the same things for extractions. I had the same thing for dentures, same thing for implants, removable partial dentures. And as you go into the pros side of things, there's multiple visits, and you have to know in a school setting what is done in each visit and how much you can do in each visit. So it's pretty overwhelming. So I definitely recommend making templates, speaking with upperclassmen, speaking with specialists, speaking with your directors, and just getting a feel for what visits are associated with certain procedures. Because I'm telling you, it's like they just want you to memorize these things, and I'm not like that. I can't just memorize all this stuff, but now, as a D4, it's definitely memorized now, but in D3 year, everything's just coming at you so fast, and I think making templates for notes and actual treatment planning is going to help you a lot in the long run. I'll put a link in the description for some of my templates that I had that you can kind of take a look and tinker with and tailor to what you think is going to be best for you as a D3 student. You know, being in clinic and doing various procedures, it requires the dentist to be proficient in administering local anesthetic. Now, that's something that I think any D3 student should perfect as much as they can before going into their 4th year. Stab lab in D2 year really gives the dental students that experience and feeling for what a patient actually has to go through to be, anesthetized. So what changes do you have to do if you're giving a maxillary injection? What changes do you have to do if you're giving a mandibular injection? How are you supposed to infiltrate on the maxilla if you're doing an extraction? How are you supposed to infiltrate on the mandible if you're doing an extraction? Speaking of the mandible, the IA is the #1 site that is unsuccessful at administering a block. So what can we do as D3 students to make sure that we're successful as much as possible? And what I learned from one of my rotations actually was Dr. Gu. He's an amazing guy. I learned so much from him. He was saying, okay, yeah, you're told in school to come contralaterally from the opposing side, right? If you're going for the mandibular IA, come from the premolars. And in school, what do they tell you? They say, go to the pterygomandibular raphe, be lateral to it, deposit it there. But what he told me was that keep that same initial approach in mind, but also look at where the mandibular ridge is. Get a feel for where the mandibular ridge is, connecting with that pterygomandibular raphe on the buccal mucosa. And then put your thumb inside the patient's mouth and your finger outside, and then get a feel for where your anesthetic is supposed to go. Have them close, have them bite down and then open, and you'll feel that opening where it's supposed to go. And take your syringe right there. You want to be a little bit closer to that mandibular ridge than outside to the pterygomandibular raphe. You got to find that sweet spot. And once you go in there, it'll just go in 3/4 of the way, which you want, and you'll always have a successful IA for the most part. So that was my thing. I'd always have premature contact because I'd be way too much out to the pterygomandibular raphe and not close to the ridge. I'd always be hitting prematurely, and my blocks would sometimes work, but sometimes they wouldn't. After I did it like this, pretty much every time the patient would tell immediately within 5 to 8 minutes that, oh yeah, I'm feeling numbness on my chin. And then that means you had a successful IA. If they're having numbness towards the premolar region by the mental, then you pretty much got the IA. So all of these things matter, and you're only gonna be getting better at these things if you ask questions. If you see the providers doing them in front of you and you're seeing them with the angles that they're going at, having the thumb in the patient's mouth and the finger outside and having them close and open to see that opening where the syringe is going to go, that was absolutely perfect. And that all that credit goes to Dr. Gu. I would not have known that had I not rotated through that clinic and him having told me that. If you made it this far, I just really wanted to sincerely thank you for watching this video. And if you're really enjoying what you're watching, it would really help me out if you subscribe to the channel and recommend this video to people you know. It really helps with the algorithm. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And don't forget to like the video as well. Another thing I learned was that self-assessment is really important, and it goes a long way. So what do I mean by that? I'm saying, like, okay, you're doing a class 2 prep, right? And if you notice that you've gone to the ideal depth and your prep is defined the way it needs to be, but there's a lot of caries and you're gonna have to go further. As a D3 first time in the clinic, I would stop and let your directors know, okay, I've taken it to the ideal depth, the ideal shape, everything's been defined, but I still see some caries. Let them show you taking it out with the spoon excavator. If the excavator's not working, what do you have to do? You're gonna drill some more. So just get that check from them so they know what an ideal prep is supposed to look like. And then go on and excavate the caries. Go further, deepen your box, widen your isthmus if needed. All that stuff should be done after your directors check where you're at. Then once you take it further and there's just something that's not working for you, if you can't see a certain angle, if you're just not able to really get a clean opening of the gingival seat or stuff like that, that's when you call your directors again and tell them, hey, look, like I extended this further, I deepened it, but there's just something there that I think there's just some dark spot here. It feels hard to me, but I'm not sure. Can you come take a look? Like, all this communication with your directors shows them that you know what you're talking about. You may not be able to get everything done, but addressing what may be deficient in your work goes a long way and really builds for a really positive relationship between you and your director, because they can trust you. They know what you're doing. They know what you're saying. So then they'll be like, okay, yeah, this does look a little dark, but guess what? It feels really hard. Like, I'm taking the Explorer, I'm using the spoon excavator. It's not scraping. There's no soft tooth structure. You're good to go. But what I want you to do is take the round burr and just roughen up the dentin a little bit. Like, I didn't know that. Like, they don't really teach you that in sim clinic. They'll be like, yeah, roughen it up with a round burr after you're done prepping to make sure that everything can really adapt into it with your restorative material. Like, all these things you're going to learn in clinic, and you got to ask questions and go step by step. You're in dental school, you have to get your prep checked first. Well, before that, you have to get the tooth checked first. You got to look at the x-rays first. Then you get the prep checked. Then you get the matrix checked with whatever way you're going to be isolating things. Then you got to get the restoration checked. So stop and just make sure everything is okay and get it checked from your directors before you move forward. Goodness, this next tip, I can't tell you how beneficial it was for me to take pictures. All this credit goes to Dr. Jordan Barnett. He taught me this. I saw his portfolio. He's a third-year dentist practicing out in Fresno, and we had an episode with him here on the podcast, actually, so definitely check it out. He speaks about what to do after dental school and how he made the most of his dental school by making his portfolio. So I saw that he had pictures of the tooth before he prepped it. He had pictures of the tooth after he prepped it. He had pictures of the tooth after he restored it. And that's exactly what I did. I had my own camera. At the school, they have their intraoral cameras. I used all of the things that I had at my disposal, and I've been taking pictures. I saw what my preps look like as a D3 the first week, and now I'm looking at what they look like as a D4 first week. And I'm noticing huge improvements. It's making me a lot more comfortable in clinic, and it just gives me something to reference back to. I can even show my patients, like, look, this is how deep the cavity was. So we put a filling in it. Maintaining oral hygiene is going to help us maximize the longevity of this restoration. And not only that, your directors will be able to also see your pictures too. You upload them onto the chart, they'll see what your preps look like. They'll see what your restorations look like. They'll see how your shade matches with the existing tooth structure. And then most importantly, like how Dr. Barnett shared with us on the podcast, it's going to help you build your portfolio. It's going to help you show employers, show offices, show private practices what you're capable of doing, how you do the work, and you have pictures to show for it. Everything you're doing in clinic is what you learned from the first day in dental school leading up to this point. It's a lot of information. It's a lot of things to be on top of. So it's up to you to make sure you're pairing everything you learned didactically in the clinic. So there'll be times when you forgot, oh my gosh, when is a screw retained implant indicated over a cement retained implant? I just was asked this question by my prosthodontic faculty, and I was like, yeah, I think I know. It's like aesthetic concerns. And then he's like, but why? And I was like, I mean, if patient has high expectations for aesthetics, then that's when you do the screw retained. Then he said, well, when can you not do a screw retained? And I just was blanking. So I had to open my lecture, and I saw that, if the access of the screw would compromise over the incisal or facial aspect of the tooth, that's when you're not going to be able to do a screw retained implant, because you'll be able to see that filled composite on the facial and incisal. Conventionally, on a screw retained implant, you want it to be in the lingual part only, so it's not visible in the aesthetic area. The cement retained implant really solves this issue and circumferentially just covers the entire area where the implant's going to be with one solid material. So this is just an example of something that happened to me last week where I had to refer back to my lecture, and you're going to have to do that. There's going to be so much material. You can't just remember everything, especially with pharmacology. You're going to have to reference your notes. Expect to do that. Definitely do that. So when you're presenting these cases to your directors and your specialists, you're on top of it and nothing's going to be a surprise for you. So how do things stand today as a D4? I'm in around the 5-month mark into my 4th year, and it's been amazing. I actually was able to go on my first rotation. I went just south of Houston to Bay City. Check out my Instagram. I talked about that. It was an amazing experience. I worked with Dr. Gu. I learned so much that I think I'm really going to be implementing in my practice outside of school. But it's been awesome. At my school, we get to travel to different rotation sites every 4 to 6 weeks nationwide and work in FQHC clinics in areas where care isn't accessible. And it's one of the only options that people have proximity wise and what they can afford. So we're really fortunate to be able to do a lot there, and I'm making the most of it. So every 4 to 6 weeks we're on a rotation, and then the next we're back at the school clinic. So right now I'm at school. My next rotation is going to be in Wisconsin. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a pretty cool vlog. I think I got some plans for it. I think you're going to enjoy it. But, it's just been really good. We finished boards. If you're looking to take the INBDE, check out this video where I went over everything that I used, how I studied for it. And at our school, everyone's been taking it pretty early. Actually, I think almost everyone's done because they just wanted to, enjoy their time on their rotations, work on their patients, check out different places that they're rotating at and what cities have to offer, because a lot of the students are already looking into working at where they want to move to after school. So just kind of experiencing different places and learning about different areas has been really good for all of us. And graduation's around the corner, man. We're knocking out our competencies for all our restorative, our implants, our dentures, our crowns. We're knocking them out, our root canals too. We're almost there. about 7 more months until graduation. But like I said, D3 year is the most fun and impactful year of your entire time in dental school. Make the most of it. Ask questions and just learn as much as you can, because I'm telling you, things you're learning in D3 year are what you're going to take into your practice outside of school every single day for the rest of your career. Treat your patients well, make them feel comfortable, just be human and show that you care. And if you pick dentistry for the right reasons, something tells me that won't be a problem. Anyways, talk to you guys next time. Peace.